So we'll start the session in next 5 minutes.
Okay, Hemal.
So we are waiting for other attendees to join. So we'll start the session in next 5 minutes.
Noted.
So we are starting the session. Uh, Hello everyone. Welcome to the webinar of non-resident individuals. My name is Hemal Parekh and I am a host for this program today. Before we go to the subject, let me introduce my company. My company name is Hemal Parekh and Company LLP. We are a chartered accountant firm with last 11 years with 150 team members. Our expertise services domestic taxation, international taxation, statutory, tax and IFRS audit, transfer pricing, and GST compliance. Uh, we have offices, Mumbai, we have two different offices. One is in Mumbai and Thane. The other one office in Ahmedabad and one in Pune. So this is something about our company. Let me introduce myself. I'm also a chartered accountant by profession, co-founder for Hemal Parekh and Company. My expertise is business advisory to the customer, business development for our company, and overall viewing of the operation. So this is something about me. Let me introduce my colleague, CA Nyaneshwar. Nyaneshwar is also a chartered accountant and a partner with Hemal Parekh and Company since 8 years. His expertise is in direct taxation and international taxation for individual, non-resident individuals and the corporate. His area specific is he take care of consultancy and advisory. He take care of compliances, and third he take care of assessment. So let's welcome Nyaneshwar. Nyaneshwar.
Hello, Hemal. Thanks for giving me opportunity to express my view on the respective topic. So over to you, Hemal. Let's start our webinar.
Yes. Thanks, Jnanish. Uh, Now let's move to the topic. So we are going to cover the three different things. First is the residential status for non-resident individual. The second is an SFT, which is statement of financial transaction. And third is the area of income which is taxable to non-residential individual and the compliance for the same. So Nyaneshwar, for the start
Yes.
of the project, let me ask you a question. I understand that in this budget 2020, there's a huge changes which is applicable to non-resident individual residential status. Can you please brief us on that and what is an impact of that for a non-resident individual?
Yes, Hemal. Agree with you. There are some major changes in the Finance Act 2020 related to residential status. So before going into in detail understanding of the residential status from the NRI perspective, let me categorize the taxpayer into three categories. There are three categories in which in India the person can be categorized. The first category is the resident and ordinary resident. Second is a resident but not ordinary resident, and the third is the non-resident. So today's webinar is specially organized for the non-resident, so our discussions stick to non-resident changes is so as you know, Hemal, residential status all over the world is arrived by different concepts. There are major two concepts that exist for arriving the residential status. One is the citizenship concept, and the second is the number of days calculation concept. Like in USA, they follow the citizenship concept. If you holding the green card, then you called up as a resident and your global income is taxable. But this is citizenship concept is not followed by India. We follow the number of days calculation concept, and for the last more than 5 years, we all know the number of days calculation that we use, that is 182 days calculation. If taxpayer is staying in India for 182 days or more than 182 days, then he called up as a resident. From Indian perspective, this is the well-known days calculation. But for this latest Finance Act 2020, come up with the new days calculation. Yes, Aimal, the new days calculation has been introduced. The days has been reduces from 182 days to 120 days. So this is a change from NRI perspective. The days has been reduces, but however, there are some conditions. If that fulfill, then only this concept will be applicable. So as you see on your screen, there are some conditions that reflecting. If that conditions are fulfilled by the NRI, then in replacement of the 182 days, 120 days will be applicable to that respective non-resident. The first condition is that non-resident first of all have a plan to visit to India. That is the first condition. Second, this NRI is an Indian citizen or the person of the Indian origin. That is the second condition. And his foreign income is more than 15 lakhs. Sorry, Indian income is more than 15 lakhs, means other than foreign sources, he has a Indian income that's a 15 lakh. There's an additional cap introduced by the respected finance minister. If these three conditions are fulfilled, then that NRI 120 days calculation will be applied. It means if this respective taxpayer NRI is planning to visit to India, he please take a note that 120 days calculation will be applied to him in replacement of 182 days. So this is very important change. NRI, please take a note of it. Over to you, Hemal.
Yes, Nanish, this is really a very big, important change in the budget 2020.
Yes.
Let me, for the audience, let me repeat again. Earlier, maybe n number of years earlier, it was 182 plus days. If you stay in India, you become a resident. Now, specifically for a non-resident, if you stay and come in India for 120 plus days and you apply for these three conditions, you become a resident of India. So what are that three conditions? Yanish informed us that if you are an Indian citizen or Indian origin, your income is beyond 15 lakh in India, and you had come to the visit in India in the previous year. If these three conditions are applied, you become a resident. So all non-resident has to really note this very well, and this is a very big amendment. Nanish, um, let me
Yes, Hemal.
understand, is there any worrisome or worry for a NRI community specific for in this budget 2020?
No specific worry from the non-resident perspective, uh, but however, there is some new clause has been introduced into Finance Act 2020, that new concept called as a deemed residency concept. Yes, deemed residency. If the NRI, as we discussed in early part of the discussion, that if the NRI's number of stays below 182 days or the 120 days, he called up as a non-resident. But still, if the some conditions are fulfilled, he may be called up as a deemed resident. So this is a very important concept has been introduced. Now, questions raised in the mind of the attendee to whom it's applicable. There are some conditions that need to be fulfilled by the NRI. Then he called up as a deemed resident. The first condition is NRI is a citizen of India, as you see on your screen, the first condition. Then second condition, again his total Indian income is above 15 lakh. That is the second condition. And third is a very important condition, that this NRI is not liable to tax any other country by reason of his residency, domicile, or any other reason. This is a very important point introduced, that let me put it in a simple word. If the Mr. X is the resident of the one particular Gulf country, Mr. Y, and he has a foreign income and he's not liable to pay the tax in that respective country due to some residency reason or some related reason, and he's a NRI, he's an Indian citizen and he's having an Indian income, then government try to levy the taxes on his foreign income. So this is a very important concept that has been introduced by the government. Now again, second questions raised in the mind of the attendee: why this dim concept introduced by the Indian Revenue Authority? What is the logic behind that? Himal, there are certain percentage of the HNIs in the world. They are a resident of the A country, B country, C country, and they plan their number of days stay in a respective countries in such a way that they land up with the non-resident of the respective country. It means they are a non-resident of the A country, B country, and C country. This is the tax planning they have done with the intention to pay the minimum or the zero taxes on the world income. So in short, they are not paying the taxes in the any corner of the world, and again they are a citizen of India. So here, government intention to catch such a tax evaders. Yes, tax evader. It's also called as a stateless person. And let me put Hemal, there is no specific guideline to whom called up as a stateless person. And again, this deemed residency concept is a major concern for the NRI community perspective, and taken into consideration the concerns of the NRI community and that voice has raised after the Finance Act 2020 has been introduced in media. The government has come up with a clarification. The first clarification is this concept will be applied only to tax evaders who made such a tax aggressive tax planning, by which they are not liable to pay the taxes all over the world. And second, whatever the foreign income earned outside India, there should be a some nexus between the income earned outside India with the business activity run within the India. So there should be a some connection between the foreign income and the activity run from the India. There should be some control carry from India. So that is all about the deemed residency concept. I request the NRI take a note of this deemed residency concept. What do you, Hemant?
Thanks, Janish. Again, there's a very big impact, Janish, but I have a very specific question on deemed resident. Can you also let us know to what category of people this deemed residency can be applicable?
Hemal, this will be applicable to the 6 to 7 categories. First of all, taking into consideration the current scenario, many NRIs are losing their jobs in the Singapore and the Gulf country. They are planning to again revisit to India for settle down. So they're trying to come middle of the financial year. So maybe they may fall into this deemed residency concept. We have to check the facts. Also, the some NRIs planning to return back due to the medical emergencies. So these are the categories. And also the workers who are operating or working on the ships, that's called as a seafarers, or the persons who are working on offshore units. For them, we need to take a we need to analyze whether this deemed residency concept will be apply or not. So these are some categories. What do you,
Okay.
Hem?
Okay, Janish. So now for the audience, this is a very big impact. Team residency is applicable to all non-resident individuals who are evading the taxes. That's very clear from a government point of view. And if you come under these three conditions, first is if you're a citizen of India. Second, if your Indian income is beyond 15 lakh and you're not liable for taxes due to in the foreign income due to specific is due to the residential reason or a law of that country, then all over your foreign income is taxable in India. This is very big update for all the audience. You have to really note this and take care from a taxation point of view. Nanish, thanks. Before we go to the next section, I will request to an audience, there is an audience poll, specific, a question specific related to why are you attending this session, and you'll have a 4 different option. Can you please, can I request all the audience to please, it will just take 10 seconds. This will help us for the future webinar to be taken. Yes. Okay. Okay. So let's move ahead. Ganesh, now we are moving to the second part.
Yes, Hemal, go ahead.
Okay. Ganesh, now let me understand the second part is the SFT. As I understand, SFT has been introduced n numbers before, but now central government is viewing or focusing on SFT. I understand nowadays many of the non-resident individuals, they are investing in India either in property, securities because of the booming market. So let me understand what is SFT and how does it impact to the non-resident individuals.
Well, the SFT called as a, the complete statement is a statement for the financial transaction. It's a mechanism developed by the Indian Revenue Authority to keep a track of the high value transactions that done by the taxpayers, including NRI. It's a well established mechanism. It's early called up as a AR, annual information return. Now they come up with this SFT mechanism. In this mechanism, the respecting reporting authority need to report the high value transaction done by the taxpayer to the revenue authority. So this is all about the mechanism. Now the questions raised in the mind of the attendee: to whom it's applicable, who is the reporting authority, and what kind of the high value transactions. First of all, it's applicable to all taxpayers. Then second, as you see on your screen, there are we have selected some other transaction that's called the high value transactions, and we also mentioned the reporting authorities. The first transaction, let me take, that's a purchase and sale of the property. This is the first transaction. Many NRIs are always have a done the purchase transactions or the sale transactions in the real estate in India. And if the transactions value goes above 30 lakhs, it's called the high value transaction. And once the registration done at a registration authority, that is the stamp duty authority, once you paid the stamp duty and done the registration at the stamp duty authority, respective transaction will be reported by the stamp duty authority to income tax department, and it will be reflected on your portal once it's done. So I request NRI, please take a note of it. Once this transaction is done, it will be available to the central government for the analysis of the data. So keep a proper record of the purchase transactions, purchase agreement, sale agreement, what are the sources of purchasing the agreement, whether you have taken the housing loan or some loans from relative. Keep a proper records. In future, if we receive some inquiry from the revenue authority, we should have a proper record in place. So this is the first transaction, Hemal. Then second transaction is the fixed deposit. Has the in India there is attractive interest rate available for the foreign NRI. So NRI always have the good habit to deposit, have the good habit of doing the deposits, fixed deposits with the banking sector. If the fixed deposits value is about 10 lakh rupees, again it's called the high value transaction. If you are doing the fixed deposit with the bank and that fixed deposit value is 10 lakhs, then it again reported to the revenue authority. And then third very important transaction, credit card payment. It's a yes, it's a credit card payment, high value transaction. Last 2-3 years, taxpayers and have the using the credit card in replacement of the cash for making a shoppings and other activities. NRIs also, while visiting to India, they used their international credit card for making some payments. And at the time of making a payment of dues of credit card, they make the payment via bank or use the cash. And if the cash is used and if the cash amount is above 1 lakh rupees, then this is a high value transaction. And if the dues are paid by a banking mechanism and the value is above 10 lakh, then again is a high value transaction. This transaction will be reported to income tax department. So I request NRI to keep a record of the credit card statement, what are the sources of making a payment of dues, because in future they may you receive the uh, notices from the income tax department that what is the reason behind making such a credit card pay, using, what is the reason of using the credit card. Now let's come to the fourth transaction. There is a investment into the shares and mutual funds. As stock exchange is another good option for the NRI for putting the amount as an investment. When you connect to sub brokers and you buy the shares or put the amount into mutual funds, and the value of transaction is 10 lakh rupees, then again transaction is reported to the income tax authority. So Hemal, these are the some transactions we selected. So these transactions will be reported to the income tax department, and this transaction reflected on your portal. Recently, government with the mechanism called e-campaign in July 2020, they come up, and due to the SFT mechanism, whatever the data available with them, they analyze that data, and with the on the basis of that data, they started sending the notices to the non-filers. Non-filers means the NRIs who are not filing the return in India, but they have the such a high value transaction, buying, selling of the property, purchasing the shares and mutual funds. So these are, they start sending the non notices to the non-filers, and the filers having a discrepancy in the return. Even they are filing the return, they are not giving the complete detail of the complete detail of their income. They are just giving the X detail of their transactions. So they may also receiving the notice, and in respect of significant value of transaction. Recently, if you NRI may buy the for example, if the NRI buy the car in India, and if the value of the car is about 10 lakh, then this transaction is reported, and they may starting receiving the notices. So these are the some transactions, this called a high value transaction. At the end, I request the NRI, in short, to keep a proper record of the high value transactions, keep a proper maintain documentation of the sources, so there should not be any issue when the notices or the inquiries received from the revenue department. Over to you, Hemant.
Okay. Okay. Nanish, thanks for explaining us on SFT. Nanish, one question comes to my mind. If
Yes, sir.
if notice is received through e-campaign by a non-resident individual, okay, what action need to be taken by them?
If the notice is received from the e-campaign, first of all, we have to understand what is the content of that notice, to whom it's whether once is notice, we have to identify to which PAN reflecting on the notice, because we have the 2-3 family members, and maybe he receive your father's, or whether it's related to your wife. So that you need to find out. Then again, I request to connect your professional advisor before giving any reply to these respective notices. And second step is to give a proper information, because on this is a reply we have to give online. You have the for 3 to 4 options available on the online, so you have to just submit the your feedback, and definitely revenue department will come back once the your on the analyzing your feedback.
Thanks, Janish. So for the audience, let me explain the SFT. SFT has become a very important part for government, and they are really behind, for all the investors or team who are doing the investment, but not filing, or non-filers, or filing with the discrepancies. So all non-resident individuals, you have to really ensure that if you get the notice as per Nyaneshwar, you have to definitely reply with that notice, and ensure when you do all these transactions, your compliance has been done. So this is very important part. Nanish, thanks for this part. Now we are moving to the next last part of our webinar, which is what kind of income is taxable for non-resident individuals, and what are the compliance need to be followed for the same. So Nanish, can you go ahead?
Yes, Hemal. For the taxability of the NRI concern, it's a big concern for the NRI community perspective, because NRI always transferring some amount transferring some amount to India for their families. They also have a planning to make an investment into the real estate, or the buying the shares, or they're investing in the mutual fund. These are the some transactions NRI always doing from Indian perspective. So before going into the taxability for the NRI community point of view, let me clear the concept of taxation in India. Hemal, we follow the source-based taxation for the NRI. Now, what is the source-based taxation? As whatever income we are talking, that income is generating in India, like capital gain on the property sale, or the capital gain on mutual funds, passive income, interest, that generating in India. So India have the first right to tax this income, because the India is giving an opportunity to earn this income in India. So this is called the source-based taxation. So let me comes to the heads which are taxable in India. The first head reflecting on your screen, Hemal, this is related to the income on a sale of securities. That's the shares or mutual funds. When we sell the shares or the mutual funds, the gain that raised, that is taxable in India. Either that is a short term or the long term. You have to just connect your sub broker and try to try to get the profit and loss account from the sub broker, which give the detail about the gain on losses you earn in the respective financial year, that is taxable in India. Second source that taxable in India is house property. In respect of the house property, there are two incomes that taxable from house property perspective. Either property is a commercial or the residential. First is the rent income, that is taxable. Then the capital gain on the sale of the property. These are the two incomes are taxable as far as house property is concerned. Then third is the very important, the dividend. Yes, the dividend is taxable in India now, because Finance Act, latest Finance Act has come up with the changes, and the dividend in the hand of the NRI is also taxable. So NRI, please take a note of it. Whatever the dividend you are going to receive on the shares, that is taxable in India after certain caps. And from passive income perspective, the interest on the bank FDs, RDs, that is taxable in India. And on the bank, there is some interest is taxable. Some TDS is also deducted, that is reflected in 26 years. You are getting a credit of that. So these are the some heads are taxable in India. And also the one head is left from my side, that is income from salary. If the some foreign person is deputed in India for some particular project, so whatever he earning as a monthly income, that's also taxable in India. So let's me come to your second question, Hemal, about compliances that to be take care by the NRI. The first compliances that need to be taken care by the NRI is filing the return of income. In India, we are applying the financial year as compared to other country. Other country using the calendar year for filing the return. In India, we use financial year is apply April to March. So once the March is over, you have to connect to your professional advisor and make sure that you file the return in the month of the May, or max to max in the first week of June. So filing of return is very important, as we early discussed about the SFT. If you are non-filer, then you may face the inquiry from the income tax department. Second very important, Hemal, compliance that need to be take care is the KYC updation. Now, what is this KYC updation? NRI when they are putting the some amount in India into the property or the securities, they are connected with the real estate agent or the sub brokers. That time, sometime in NRI failed to report his status that he is a NRI, and respective organization or the agent assume that he is a resident and accordingly apply the rules. So at the time of the filing or at the end, it make a confusion or may create a complexity from the NRI perspective. So I request the NRI to communicate their NRI status at the early stage where they're making some investment in India. Now come to the third compliances, that is the NRO NRE account. Once you have the NRI carry the NRE non-resident status, you have to convert your saving account to NRO account for whatever Indian activity. For the interest income or whatever the rent you receive, it should be received in the NRO account. That's called non-resident ordinary account. And the for the doing the foreign remittances, for transferring the amount outside India, we should respective NRI should have a non-resident external accounts. So these two types of the account need to be maintained by the NRI, and also need to take care of the FEMA regulations. So these are the compliances and overall summary of the taxability of the sources in India. Hemant, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Nanish. Nanish, I have one very specific question. Is if it will come to the non-resident Indian mind. If I have done any of the transaction, I have an income either from salary or a house property, and I do not file the return. The income is beyond the taxable limit, and I do not file the return. What is an impact of that?
Oh, okay. So what I understand is we have the income above basic limit, and we respective taxpayer fail to file the return. So obviously, there are chances that he receiving the notices from the revenue authority for yeah, asking for the detail about the sources of the income, and putting the reason for why he has not filed the return, why he has not paid the taxes. That time he need to connect to his professional advisor for the uh, reply to these respective notices. But what I suggest, Hemal, even NRI fail to file the return within a due date, whatever the uh, dates or the months available with the NRI for filing the return. Even he failed to file the return within a due date, even the option is not available on the portal. he should calculate his tax on the his income and paid the taxes and the interest. Even he if not file the return because the option is not available, but better to pay the taxes and interest, so that there will be no huge liability at the after the 3 to 4 years when the notice is received from the revenue authority. So this is my
Okay.
view.
Okay, Nanish, thanks. Nanish, before means I understood from taxability, I have one more question. Can you please explain what do you mean by treaty for non-resident individuals?
The treaty, it's called as an agreement. It's an agreement between the two countries. Uh, Before going into giving a detail about the treaty, let me give an example of double taxation so you get a better idea about why we sign the agreement between the two countries. The double taxation means, Hemal, let's take your example. Suppose you are working in USA and you are a resident of the USA. Now your global income is taxable in USA, including whatever the passive income you earn in India. So the tax is levy on your global income at USA and in India also, because of the your non-resident and source-based taxation we follow, as we discussed earlier. So your Indian income is taxed in India. So what happened? Your Indian income, on your Indian income, you are paying the taxes in USA due to the residency concept, and in India due to the source-based concept. So income is taxed twice. So it's called the double taxation. So for avoiding this double taxation, two revenue authority come together, two countries come together, sign agreement, that's called the treaty. So while filing the return, it's very important to check it out the provisions that are existing into agreement, because that decide the rights of taxation for the countries. Over to you, him.
Thanks, Janish. For the audience, uh, there are three different things what we understood from Jnaneshwar. First, let me summarize all the activities what we understood. First, very important part is the residential status. There is a change in the non-residential status. Earlier, it was 182 plus days. If you stay in India, you become a resident. Now it has reduced to 120 plus days, but three conditions are applicable. First condition is you are an Indian origin or an Indian citizen. The second condition, you have 15 lakh plus income in India. And the third condition, you had visited to India in the previous year. So if you apply to any of these things, 120 plus days is applicable to, and if you are in India for 120 plus days, you become the resident of India and your global income is taxable. So that's the first condition, which is a first residential status what we discussed. The second, the new section has been introduced by the income tax for this year. This is called as deemed residence. Now deemed residence, whom it is applicable, it is again three conditions. One is if you are an Indian origin. Second, if you have a 15 lakh plus income in India. And the third is in global, wherever your residence, your income is not taxable due to the local law of that country, then you become the deemed resident. But this is specifically applicable as per the government norms. This is specifically applicable who are trying to evade the taxes. So this is called as deemed resident. You have to really note this very well. The third important part is what we discuss is the SFT. Now government is focusing on sending the notices. If you do any of the transaction which is under the SFT, ensure you have the proper documentation and all your compliance has been followed. And the fourth, what we discuss about the taxability and compliance. In taxability and compliance, very important part is the KYC. Now, in case of KYC, if you are doing the KYC in advance, if you are not done the KYC in advance, you may come into a non-compliance mode, and the income tax may send you a notice and ask you to pay the penalty because you have not followed the process properly. So this is very important factor. Let's move to the question answer part. Danish, we already have a couple of questions. For the audience, let me we already have a couple of questions, and we will take one or two questions from audience. Um,
Okay.
uh, okay, Nerish, we have first question which is being asked by an audience. Let me inform you. Okay, the first question is, the audience is asking that if I have a property in India and I'm planning to sell that property, I do not have much difference between selling price and purchase price. So I do not have much profit in that. But still, as per the law, if the purchaser is buying the property, he will deduct 20% taxes on this. Can you guide us? How do I save this TDS and I get the maximum amount remitted to my account?
Okay, so what I understand that respective attendee has planning to say, sell his property, and there is no much difference between the purchase value and the sale value, and some big major amount is blocked due to the TDS mechanism. So the good option available, Hemal, is the tool that available at in India is applying for the lower deduction application. This is a tool, a very good tool. Taxpayer can apply for the lower deduction application to income tax department. He has to just put a one application to the respective income tax officer, uh, and he just give the information about the transaction and other additional details what requested by the respective officer. And again, I request to connect your professional advisors while putting the application. Just because of there is a no much difference, he may receive the lower deduction application with the reduced TDS rate. Right now, the 20% is there. So officer with analysis of data, if he justify, he may issue the certificate with the 3% or 5% TDS. So the major amount will be saved. Major amount will not be blocked. And also, ML online portal is available for putting the application. Early it was the we have to submit at offline by submitting at a local jurisdictional officer, but now the online option is available, so he can put application online. So
Okay.
it's a good tool, Hemal. What do you?
Okay, thanks, Janish. I hope the question which is asked by an audience will able to get the answer. The second question the audience has asked is for NRI. All three conditions must satisfied only, or only 120 days can change the NRI status to ordinary resident status. That's the second question. What live question the non-resident Indian has asked.
Can you come again, Hemal? What is the
Okay.
question?
Okay, for NRI, all the status to be considered from non-resident to ordinary resident, only 120 days is applicable, or all three conditions are applicable?
A non-ordinary resident. There are two conditions: resident and
Not
plus
not
ordinary.
not. I'm repeating the question, Manish.
I'm not
For
getting.
all non-resident individuals, whether all three conditions should satisfy, or only 120 days if he stays in India, he becomes the ordinary resident for India.
See, let me clear the point. 182 days calculation is there always. There is no replacement for that. Only the additional point is when you are visiting to India, if that respective taxpayer is planning to visit, then 120 to 120 days calculation will be there. And suppose he's fulfill that criteria of completing 120 days, then he called up as a resident. And as far as ordinary resident is concerned, there are different provisions that need to be take care. There are days calculation that also need to be checked out. Accordingly, we will take a call whether he's a resident plus ordinary resident. But if he complete the fulfill the 120 days condition, then he definitely a resident.
Plus, he
We
has to
require the
also
additional.
cover. Plus, he has to also cover with that three conditions, which is like he is an Indian origin. The second, he has an Indian income of 15 lakh
Yes,
plus.
yes, I agree.
Okay, and he
Yeah,
is visited India. So, if that three
yeah.
conditions apply, so I hope we answered the question for non-resident. Nyanish, we have one more question. Is if a non-resident Indian returning to settle back to India, okay, what are the various obligations to be fulfilled? How and when his NRE term deposit interest will be treated as a taxable income?
If the NRI is planning to return back to India, there are statutory obligation perspective, FEMA regulation and taxations compliances that need to be taken care. And again, we require the additional data for giving a specific answer to the statutory obligations point of view. As far as taxability of the in interest that he is earning in Indian India. Suppose for this respective financial year, if he is planning to come in this upcoming October or the November month, definitely 120 days will be fulfilled. But we have to check it out the other 15 lakhs and other conditions also. If 120 days fulfilled, then he called up as a resident and his Indian income will be taxable.
So in that case, all his NRE term deposit will also be considered as a interest on that will be considered as a taxable. If he
But
fulfill.
if the amount is put it into NRE account, then it's a tax free.
Uh, okay. Okay. Nanish, we have one more question, live question from audience. 1 minute. Let me take. Okay. Uh, he has a question that if we want to transfer, okay, the amount from NRO account to NRE account, what process need to be followed from a taxation point of view?
Taxation prospect point of view, when you put an application in the bank for transferring the amount, they may request for the 15 CA certificate from the chartered accountant. Chartered accountant will certify the transaction, what amount you are transferring from NRE to NRE account. Is there any taxability? He check it out and he issue the 15 CA certificate. Along with the 50 CA certificate, taxpayer need to submit the 15 CB also. So the two forms need to be submitted, 15 CA and CB. He need to consult with his advisor
Okay.
before
Okay.
transferring.
Okay. Thanks, Janish. Janish, one last question. We will take it. One non-resident individual is asking that due to COVID, if he will not able to complete outside India for more than 182 days, whether he will consider as a resident for this country?
Means he is in India right now due
Yes.
to the COVID. I think so. Yeah, definitely. Yes, there is no specific guidelines from the central government right now for the COVID pandemic. So taking into consideration the rules and regulation, if you are completing 182 days in India, you called up as a resident. So we have to do
Okay.
the planning for the foreign incomes.
Okay. Okay. Um, thanks. Thanks, Jnanish. I think so. We could not, for the audience, we could not cover all the questions, but we will request all the audience that if you have any specific questions, okay, which we could not cover, you can send an email on internationaltaxation@labdi.com. We will reply to all the questions according to your requirement. And thanks to all the audience for attending this session. We at the end of the after the session, you may get a feedback email on your registered email ID. So I request all the attendees to please reply or please give the feedback. So this will helpful for our future webinars. Thanks audience. Thanks Nanish, and
Thank
thank
you
you
very much.
everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much. Bye bye.
thanks for attending.
Thanks.